I'm calling this the power of the indestructible life. Because as I'm reading Hebrews chapter 7, I go to verse 16, and it talks about Jesus is from the order of Melchizedek. It says, and this even is clear if another priest arises in the likeness of Melchizedek, verse 16, who has become a priest, not by legal regulation and by physical descent, but by the power of the indestructible life. That means your life is indestructible. Someone say, my life is indestructible. I was warned not to ever ski again, Susie. Well, don't ski again because the altitudes can kill you. I've got 3 arteries open, one's blocked. Don't ever ski again. It'll kill you. I'm going to go skiing. I got my ski pass again. I ski all the time. I love to ski. Well, don't go kayaking alone because you might drown. No, I kayak always alone, and then I'll do it with family too. But I love to kayak. Why? Because I'm not afraid of death, because my life is indestructible. Do you understand? When you're from the order of Melchizedek, it's like the Marvel comics. Do you know that you and I know Iron Man was killed the other day, but you can't kill the other guys. Huh? No, we all saw that movie, didn't we? Sorry, spoiler. Brian, Stephanie, see, you and I can go through hard times, but our life is indestructible. The devil can't destroy you. He can't destroy your marriage. He can't destroy your kids. Mike and Narina, the devil can throw fiery darts at you, and he can put all kinds of stuff at you, but guess what? Your life is indestructible. It depends on what order we're from. If we're from the Levitical order, yeah, you're right. We can live in condemnation. We can live in shame. We can live by rules and regulations. We can live by whatever the world tries to concoct or human traditions. When I was in Israel the other day, the famous church, I think it was the church of the Ascension of Christ, which probably isn't, but anyway, they built a church there, and there's been a ladder sitting outside of the building, and I said, why is that ladder there? They go, we don't know. Someone put the ladder outside and they never wanted to take it down. That's tradition. It's worth nothing. The only thing that is worth something is the order of Melchizedek. Our master is from that order. He's not even from the Levitical order. He's from the Melchizedek order, and we get to live based on that order. That means whether you're black or white or Latino or Asian or Filipino, it doesn't matter what your background is, you're from the indestructible life. Look what it says. Did you hear that? It says this. Look at verse 16. Who's become a priest, not by legal regulation. Should Pasquale be the consultant of our president? Not legally. No fancy college degree. No sociology degree. No PhD. It's Pasquale from the streets of Las Vegas. 7th degree black belt. Should Norma be in the White House consulting about immigration and trying to help change policies that are immigrant friendly to somehow work with them? Tell you what, friends, our heart is a church of compassion. You won't find it, very few churches like ours. There are a few that are just, we're bent on compassion. We help the poor. We help the widows. Bible says true religion is like this. I want everybody to grab a red envelope. And by the way, there's no pressure here. Don't do it if you feel pressure. Just do it because you think, man, that's true religion, is helping the poor. This Christmas, we're going to give people Christmas to remember. We've already got, I think, 6 pallets of baby furniture and stuff. We got, 10 pallets of presents already. But man, we need a lot of help to be able to get this out into people's hands. We're going to give people a Christmas. But not only are we going to give them a Christmas, we're going to give them Christ. Because it's more than just helping the poor. It's bringing them into the order of Melchizedek. I was talking to my mom this week. She's 99 years old. I said, Mama, are you going to reach 100? She goes, I don't know, honey. I said, but aren't you ready for heaven, Mama? I said, don't you know you're going to heaven? She says, I don't know. I don't know if I'm really ready. She's 99 years old. And one of the most godly people I've ever met, my mama. I said, Mom, why don't you know if you're ready? I just don't know. Why? Because she was raised in religion. She was raised in an order that was based on performance, based on rejection, a separation between Christians and their pastors or priests, a separation between a normal person and the Levitical priesthood. When I grew up, they would offer Jesus every single Mass. Jesus was offered up, broken body, blood spilled. Called transubstantiation. That piece of bread became the body, and that wine became the blood. Why? Because they were priests in the old order. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Catholics. I love Presbyterians. I love Lutherans. I love everybody. But when it comes to truth, I'm not part of the old order. I'm part of the order of Melchizedek. When you get to realize that the fact we're going to celebrate the birth of Jesus, who's the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, and usually people, it goes right over their head. Oh, don't talk to me about theology, talk to me about motivational thinking and all. No, I want to talk to you about the Bible. And I want to lay a foundation for you that on December 24th, it gives you a reason to celebrate all month, but also to be generous all month, to help the poor all month. True religion is what we want to do this month. So, can you all raise up an envelope? Holy Spirit, I just want you to move on people's hearts that we do something. Whether it's $5 or $50,000, that we're going to feed the poor, we're going to help the prisoners, we're going to help the widows and the single moms, and Lord, we're going to put this on steroids, and this will be the greatest month of helping the hurting that we've ever had as a church. And I'm declaring this in the powerful name of Jesus Christ. And if you agree with that, say amen. Now, at the end of service, if you want to help, I'm already doing this because I'm helping. But if you want to help, just bring it up here. No pressure. Just don't do it if you feel pressured. Just do it because say, I want to help the poor. I want to be part of a movement that cares about the poor. We have a big program right now that's helping immigrants. We don't talk a lot about this stuff because we don't want to shame anybody. Thank you, Lonnie. But we have a big program with the immigrants right now. We're doing things that we don't talk about because we don't want to make it political. We want to make it biblical. I said, we don't want to make it political. We want to make it biblical. Someone say indestructible life. Who's become a priest not by legal regulation or by physical descent, but by the power of the indestructible life. For here is the testimony about him, Jesus. You are priests forever in the order of Melchizedek. Now, how many of you know what an order is? Like Jesuit order, you've heard of the Jesuits, that's an order, right? You've heard about the order of the lodges, the Elk Lodges, the order of the Masons, the Mason order. You've heard of different orders. There's military orders too in terms of groups. My dad was part of the Devil's Brigade. I met someone today, Paul. I met him the other day, but I saw him again today. He was in the movie about my dad's brigade. It was an order. The 1st Special Forces was an order. See, because if you're an order, you follow certain orders. So the question is, are we going to be a Levitical order based on traditions alone, or are we going to be on the Melchizedek order, which is people that love Jesus and serving Jesus, and we're just all in? What order are you from? Do you go to church because it's religious, or you go to church because you love God and you love people? Thank you, princess. You are awesome. Look at this girl there. I love that. Someone's teaching their kids to be unselfish. You see, and it's not a new order because we read it in Genesis, but let's go back to the Old Testament one more time, because when you read the Psalms, and by the way, that's why these worship leaders are prophetic. We don't just sing songs at our church. We're a prophetic worship team. I know we're going to have prophetic songs coming out of this body. Christine wrote a song called Run to the Roar and sang it, and I play it all the time. Just go to, where is it, on YouTube or something, or on Spotify? Just go to Run to the Roar. I listen to it all the time, because prophetic songs are coming out of this team. Prophetic songs are rising up. Why? Because we're a Psalm 10 generation. Look at verse 4. The Lord makes this promise an oath and will not revoke it. You are an eternal priest after the pattern of Melchizedek. No, okay, so David's sitting down one day and God gives him this. He's singing a song, and then he sings, oh, he's the order of Melchizedek. He starts singing this song with a guitar or whatever he had back then. And David, the king, is now prophesying about the coming Jesus from the order of Melchizedek. Read the Psalms. You'll find prophetic revelations about what we're going to celebrate December 24th. This is the birth of Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, not from the order of the Levitical priesthood, which brought only death, but from the order of Melchizedek. You got to let this sink in, gang, because we're not playing games. Everything that God did was for a reason. That's why the first order of the priest didn't work. The order of Melchizedek is God's desire. It was foreshadowed by this guy, and now Jesus is part of that order. Someone say order. So David starts prophesying about this order and prophesying about the Lord, i.e. Jesus, becoming part of that order. Now, let's go back to Hebrews chapter 7:1. Hebrews 7:1, verse 1. Hebrews 7. Now this Melchizedek, the king of Salem, which is Jerusalem, priest of the Most High God, he wasn't worshiping idols, met Abraham as he was returning from defeating the king and blessed him. Verse 2, to him also Abraham apportioned a tithe of everything. And I studied this, it means they gave him a tithe off the top. It's interesting, years ago, my wife and I were tithing off our net. And then one day she says, honey, do you think we should tithe off our top, off the gross? I thought, well, it's not in the Bible. The Bible doesn't say gross. So we just decided that we're going to start testing God and tithing off our gross. And now, then we shifted to 15%, then we shifted to 20% of our income, then we shifted to 25, then we shifted to 30. And you say, why is that? Don't you give the minimum? No, you start with a minimum. And then as you go on, you gain more and more and more faith. When you read this, it says, and Abraham gave a portion of tithe of everything. And literally it means off the top. He gave the very best. His name first means king of righteousness, and then king of Salem. And that is the king of peace. So now we have Jesus, the king of righteousness, and Jesus, the prince of peace. So you read this, Old Testament is always revealed in the New Testament. All right, let's keep going. Now, verse 4. But see how great he must be. Because if Abraham the patriarch gave him a tithe of his plunder. So now it's being revealed. The book of Hebrews is saying, this guy was amazing. Let's keep going. Verse 6. But Melchizedek does not share the ancestry that collected a tithe from Abraham and blessed the one who possessed the promise. So he doesn't have it by blue blood. Now I want you to think about this for a second. You might say, well, God can never use me because I'm not blue blood. God can never use me because I come from a broken family. God can never use me because I was an alcoholic. God can never use me because I was divorced. That's old order. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. If you can use anything, Lord, you can use me. See, when you stand before God, he's not going to say, man, you just don't measure up. Sorry, dude. He'll look at you and say, wow. What order are you from? And whose orders do you take? See, that's a big deal right now. When I look at millennials, I know people criticize millennials. I don't, because I actually think that millennials are from a new order. They don't think like me. I'm raised by my mom and dad, and my dad went through the war, my mom went through the war and through the Great Depression. Man, I'm hardcore. I don't think like a millennial. But man, they're so awesome and they're so radical. There's no doubt they're from a new era. Because see, if you're from a new era, it's because you created a new order. We have to have orders. But it's not based on dead tradition. It's based on the Word of God and our Master Jesus, who's from the order of Melchizedek. See, my dad was from the 1st Special Forces. That was an order. He followed his orders. He's from that group. They wore a red beret during the day or a black beret. And at night, they would go over enemy lines and kill the bad guys and leave a sticker on the forehead. The worst is yet to come. My dad was from an order that had a set of orders. And we as Christians, coming from Jesus, who's from the order of Melchizedek, we have a certain set of orders. Not based on dead religion, but based on life. So when I say, why do you go to church? It shouldn't be because my mama did or my mama said I should. It's because, man, I want to go to church to love God and serve others, and I want to go and give. I planned all week long on how to give. In the past 2 weeks, I've seen 2 people raised from the dead. I think it's because they're from the New Order. You had Larry Thomas, who prayed for that, for her. Portia is her name, and she was raised from the dead. I sat with David, who was dead for 5 minutes, clinically dead for 5 minutes, no brain activity, raised from the dead. The family were going to the hospital. It's my son-in-law and his family. We're going to pull the plug the next day. They get into the hospital. People have flown in to pull the plug and say goodbye to David, the dad. And guess what happens? He's sitting up eating. Why? Because they called the office here. They called us, of course, because his family. We started praying. We got the intercessors praying. And he was raised from the dead. Why? Because it's a new order. There's still churches out there that don't believe in the new order. Well, Paul, I remember when I first got saved, well, miracles don't really happen anymore, and the gifts of Spirit don't happen anymore. And I mean, they're good churches, don't get me wrong, and some of them are even growing right now. But why are they growing? Are they growing because they're new order or old order? See, old order is not demonic. It's just saying they just go by a different set of rules or orders. I'm from the order of Melchizedek. And that means, man, we're going to do things that nobody ever expected us to do, like Jesus. We're going to follow the orders of the Master. We're going to follow the one that's willing to lay down everything. It says the word there is new order or command or charge or precepts. And it says not according to these things, or it doesn't come from these things, but from, you know the word there, power, is dunamis. The dunamis of a what? Of an indestructible life. Hey, 3 years ago I was dying, and I asked the Lord to come back, and he let me come back. I talked to David. I said, David, you were clinically dead for 5 minutes. I said, did you see the Lord? He said, yes. Did he say anything? He said, yes. He asked me if I wanted to stay or go. And I told him I wanted to go back for my family, and he started crying. That's the exact same thing that happened to me. I had the chance to go and be gone forever and rule and reign with him. But I decided to come back. Why? For my family and for you. That's the only reason I'm here, gang. It's much better up there. People say, man, you had 2 strokes. Yeah, I had 2 strokes, and I'm still walking and talking and skiing and kayaking. Man, you look at my life, people, the doctors gave me a clean bill of health the other day. They said, man, you're doing good. My blood pressure's good, my body's good, my energy's good. It's like, what? Why? Because I live the indestructible life. And when your pastor goes home one day, you better have the biggest party in Las Vegas. Because, man, I don't regret it. I love God. I'm fearless. Because when you're fearless, you live an indestructible life. If you're controlled by fear of money, your life is shattered when things don't go well. If you have a fear of losing your wife or your kids, you're controlled by fear and not the indestructible life. You literally have to believe that you're from the Marvel comics. You literally have to believe that you're going to live forever. Now, maybe it's because I was raised in the disco years. I'm going to live forever. I'm going to learn how to fly. Ow! Maybe it's because I sang that song for years. All I know is that I'm from another order, and I follow different orders. And David, politically, you could have all hell break loose, but they re-elect you. You could have people talking against you and slandering you, but you are a man of God. You put yourself in the Word. You put yourself in the new order, not the old order, but the new order. Why is Pasquale in the White House? Because he serves a new order. Why was he in Armenia and in Jerusalem the other day meeting with Parliament and all this kind of stuff? Because God functions in a new set of rules, and you should want those rules. Why? Because it's not based on your heritage. It's not based on past perfection. It's not based on dead religion. It's based on Jesus. Shabbat! Is there anybody still with me? Chuck Pierce said we're in a new era right now, and I totally agree. What's an era? It's a time frame. It's a season. And it takes discernment to prepare for those seasons. Let me give you an example. You know, we have a business, a little business in California. We have a little cabin that we rent out to pay the rent, to pay the mortgage, and of course it's where I go and write, and I go and pray, and it's for my family, and sometimes I send missionaries up there, and it's just a really great place, but we have to rent it out to pay the bills. And I discovered something that's so sick. I was skiing last year, and every time I get in the ski lift, because I'm part of the new order, I'm trying to change or touch everyone's life I'm with, even if it's just 5 minutes going up the lift. And I sat next to a guy that was from Sri Lanka. He had a really complicated name, Pasquale. And now I know what it is. It was Pasindu, and he had a complicated last name. And so I just called him Rocket Man, because he was a snowboarder. He's a little guy, like maybe 5'6", and probably weighs 130 pounds, but he goes down the slope, boom! And so that day, as we're going up, I said, who are you? Where are you from? What do you do for a living? And 22 years old, he's a realtor going through school and bought his first house in Big Bear to rent out. And he's making a business out of it. And so I thought, man, that's kind of cool. So we ended up hanging out together, and then I said, can I take you out to lunch? So I took him out to lunch, and I fed him, and then I shared about Jesus. He's from a Buddhist background. And I started sharing about this indestructible life. And we had a great time, and he's become my friend, and he rents out his place as a business, so I need to rent my place to pay the mortgage, and so he's helping me with that. In fact, the coolest thing is when you're in a new era, you've got to prepare for that era, because whether you're ready or not is coming. It's coming. You might say, oh, no, I don't believe in snow. Just go to Big Bear, 3 feet of snow. Mike and Narina, you live in the Great White North right now. Man, when it snows, it snows. And when it rains, it rains. You got to have an umbrella, don't you? 2 or 3 umbrellas. You might even need galoshes, because we call them galoshes back, like rubber boots or something like that. And in the winter, you need real winter clothes. And maybe a winter beard like Mike has. Let me just say this. Whether you're ready or not, seasons change. The question is, will you be ready for it? But you know, the beautiful thing is that whether you're ready or not, winter will come up at Big Bear. And there's some people that weren't ready for it. They didn't get their snow tires on. They didn't get their chains on. And literally, so many cars were getting blocked on the road that they shut down all the roads. And so my rentals canceled out because they couldn't get to the top of the mountain. Why? They weren't ready for the new season. New seasons change whether you're ready or not. When you have kids, you say, well, I wasn't ready for kids. Ready or not, here they come. You see, whether you're ready or not, when God changes the seasons, it's up to you to prepare for the seasons. Are you prepared spiritually? Are you prepared emotionally? Are you prepared financially? During the crash of 2008, a lot of us weren't prepared for that crash because we were flying high in Vegas, but then the crash hit. And many of us suffered. The season changed. We just weren't ready for it. But I really believe that there's a new season right now, and delays are over. The fact that we have a brand new floor over there, that's just incredible. We had to get ready for it. They had to prep it. I came last night and I wanted to make sure everything's great, and there was a little smell here, and I thought, man, so Dan came and Scott helped and Jermaine and Molly helped, and we want to get rid of all the fumes, which we did, but Dan was here to 1 a.m. just to make sure that it'd be good for you. And this morning I got here early and other team members got here at 5 just to make sure this building was ready for you. Why? Because new seasons can sometimes become messy. New seasons can sometimes require new clothes, new boots, an umbrella, whatever it is. But so see, Mike, you and Arena know this because you change seasons. You were on the staff. Now you move to the Great White North. You're up there with penguins and Eskimos and all that kind of stuff. You had to change. The sad thing is when the seasons are changing and we're not ready for the change. You can stand there in your bathing suit all day long, but it's when it's 20 below, it's 20 below. When I was in Israel, I realized that I not really planned well because they said the season had changed, but the weather hadn't changed yet. So it was very, very hot. And my grandson says, Papa, We went to visit Masada, where the last Jews were killed in the Great Revolution of 70 AD. And this fortress is like this. And my grandson says, Papa, I want to run up Masada. Do you know what that means? It's like this, and there's a winding path, they call it the snake path, and to get to the top of the old fortress where the last Jews hid out after the revolution in 70 AD. And then they all committed suicide. It's Masada, it's famous. So little Luke, 13, who's a soccer player, can run all day, says, Papa, I'm gonna run up. I said, okay, I'll walk up. But not knowing that it was gonna be really, really hot in the middle of the desert climbing a mountain like this. So as I'm walking up, it's getting harder and harder and harder. And he's running, and then I see one guy throwing up. I see other young people crying, almost passing out on the trail. And I'm going, I've got 3 arteries left, and I'm climbing the hardest mountain in really, really bad weather. Not very smart. Not very smart. I wasn't prepared. See, the lack of preparation can really kill us, can't it? So the whole time I'm praying like I'd never prayed before. Oh, God, help me. Oh, don't let me die here. I can't die. Well, dying in Israel is pretty good, but I don't want to die right now. I got too many things I want to do. I literally prayed the whole time. And when the guy's throwing up, I'm going, don't throw up. I've got a weak stomach. I almost started throwing up. But the order of Melchizedek is the order that you and I call to be part of. It's a powerful word. Let's read again, verse 14 through 17. And I want the worship team to come up, please. See, there comes a time where you got to do different things to get different results. So God says, listen, that old order from Aaron, the Levitical priesthood, you're just kind of messing everything up, and everybody's becoming religious. And they even miss the Messiah. So he says, I want to remind you of a guy named Melchizedek, who Abraham recognized as the high priest of the God. He had the first temple. So my thing today is, are you part of a new era? Because if you're part of a new order, because if you are, I believe you'll have an indestructible life. What does that mean? You're not controlled by fear anymore. You're not controlled by shame anymore. You're not controlled by the failures of your past or by legal regulations of some religious thing. You're controlled by the Master. You're following his lead. And he's the king and priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. One last verse. You say, well, Pastor, what does all this mean? I'll tell you what it means. Go to Revelations 5. In Revelations 5, it just tells us really why all this is happening. It's Revelations 5:10. It's really kind of amazing. It says, for you've been appointed as a king and a priest to serve our God, and you'll reign forever on the earth. Can I tell you a crazy thing? See, there was a time where, and many churches still have it, where this upper area is only for the priests or the pastors. Everybody else is just kind of sheep. There's the secular and the sacred. Somehow, you guys would all be second-class citizens in the order of God. But in the order of Melchizedek, the order of Jesus, it says here, you will all be made priests and kings. Chaplain Dow, here you are making movies and traveling around the world and speaking at big events. Why? Because you're a great business person. You really, really are. You are a king, a queen. But also, Chaplain, not only did you serve as a detective for all those years, now you're making movies and you're fighting for the unfortunate, like our whole church does. And you're saving lives through and you're being invited around the world to speak. You've written a book, and Chaplain Dow, she's amazing. You know what she is? She's a king, sharp business person, sharp detective, retired but now changing the world. But you know she's also a priest. You say, well, wait a second, I think you can't be both. No. In the new order, you can be both, king and priest. See, the beautiful thing that most people miss, Mike, and you know this is true, is in the new order, every one of you is just like me. everyone and I might have different marching orders, but we're part of the same order. See, the beautiful thing is whether you run a company or whether you're a social worker or whether you're a preacher or a missionary, you're called to the same order of Melchizedek and Jesus, the high priest. And when you realize you can be king and priest, and one day we're going to rule and reign with Christ,